everyone. My name is Dora Diaz, and I want to welcome you to Spill the Tea with OYD. We're here with our co-host Rachel. And Rachel speaking. For today, we're just having a little bit of technical difficulty, so it'll just be a blank screen when she speaks. But it's all good because Rachel has really good questions for Megan, and we are here with Megan, who is running for county commissioner. And she is really excited. She just joined the race. So I'm going to welcome you to Megan. Megan, say hi.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Hi. So we are here with Spill the Tea. I have my own little, I just have like iced tea. I wanted something refreshing. What are you drinking today?
I had to actually ask a neighbor, and they had regular Lipton tea.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. I'm more of a peach tea person, but I don't have that at my house right now.
I haven't tried
I'm drinking water.
That sounds really good. So can you tell us more about the position you're running for? What does that office do, and who can vote for you?
Sure. So I am running for Osceola County Commissioner in District 3. That's a big chunk of Plain Siena. And I'm terrible at maps, but it is like it. This is horrible, but
it picks up most of Point Siena, right, Megan, and yes, including Intercession City, Campbell City.
Yes.
So pretty much that whole general area, kind of, what would that be? East, west of 192, like going down Point Siena Boulevard, Bell Lago, probably.
Yes.
So, but there may be other parts. That's just the part that I know.
Yes. There's about 40,000 voters in District 3. I wish there was an easier way for people to find out what district that they live in. But anybody who registers to vote and signs up for that sample ballot will know what district they're living in. There's also a lookup tool on the Supervisor of Elections website. It's a few clicks. But yeah.
Yes. And also for our viewers, one of the best ways to look up what district you're on is you can look at your registration ID. And the Osceola County Supervisor Elections websites, it's really actually, I think it's pretty simple to go through. So check that out for those who are interested in finding out who you can vote for when it comes to county commissioners. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. So the Board of County Commissioners is a local government that is in charge of the budget for Osceola County. They have quite a bit of power, and they meet at board meetings and vote. There's also a series of citizen groups that do like research and basically kind of put together what can be on the agenda. And yeah, I'm really learning a lot more about how this works. One of the things that I had done was sign up for, I think it's called the School of Government through the city of Kissimmee. I got accepted in that program, and then the pandemic happened. So I did not get to participate in that. But I'm definitely learning as we go, and whoops, let me turn my phone on silent.
The School of Government really is a fun program, Megan. Like I did it when I first started working at the paper because, like you, I just wanted to learn as much as I could about the area, and it's a lot of fun. You get to go visit the fire department, and they always like give you dinner. So whenever all of this craziness is over, I bet you'll really enjoy it because it's cool.
Yeah, I wish they were doing, well, I don't know. They said the next one won't be till next year, so But
So, tell us a little bit about what you, do for a living, kind of your background, and what inspired you to run for this position?
sure. So my background is a little all over the place. I would consider myself kind of a gig worker. Um, I have worked in restaurants as a host, as a server. I have worked in a retail environment as a cashier. I have worked for the US Census. I have done some food delivery. I'm kind of all over the place. But I would say that my passion is definitely in taking care of kids. Um, and that's what I was doing up until the pandemic. Was I was taking care of elementary school children, and picking them up from school, helping them with their homework, playing, teaching them how to read, practicing spelling words, making fun out of education. And I really, really, really enjoy that. That is definitely probably my favorite of everything that I have.
Would you say that had any role in kind of inspiring you to run, or what were some of the main factors that contributed to that decision?
Sure. So I moved to Osceola County when I started high school. I went to Poinciana High School. Um, and to be perfectly honest, I didn't feel that there was much of a future for me here in Osceola. Um, I went to school in Philadelphia, and I lived in Philly for 6 years. And the circumstances of my moving back home were not the greatest. Um, I, I, I was on Medicaid at the time in Philly, and I was so. Let me back up a little bit. So I'm going to be very vulnerable here. I live with major depression. I've been on medication for a while since college. And when I lost my job from right out of college, first I worked at a Chili's, and then I got an office job, and it was great. It was salary, it was benefits, it was everything that you're supposed to do when you graduate from college. Unfortunately, I had to go to the hospital and had to have emergency surgery, which I had to have 2 follow-up surgeries. So there was a good 3 months where I was kind of on and off of working, recovering from those surgeries. And it was really hard. And it was hard to financially get through it. I got a second job working at a haunted house for the Halloween season. So when I came back to work full time, my job got harder, not because the actual work was harder, but because there was an office environment that made me feel like I was being pushed out. And I truly believe that I was let go because they didn't want to pay for my benefits anymore. And after that, there was a real need for health insurance. I applied for Medicaid. I got Medicaid. And despite turning in all my paperwork and trying to reapply and all of that, I lost my coverage, which meant that I couldn't see my doctor. I couldn't get my medication. And I ended up rationing my antidepressants, which, if you don't know, is really not good. And this led to a mental health crisis. I ended up in the hospital. And I literally, the day after I got out of the hospital, I took a plane ride home. And at the same time, my stepdad was really, really sick at the time, dealing with his own mental health crisis. So it was just kind of.
So it sounds like a lot of these, events contributed in your life. Did that make you want to help others? Kind of from like the government level. Where does politics? Where did you find such a passion for it?
Sure. I will say that I'm pretty new to the political realm. I had knocked on doors for Obama in each election. Um, just kind of like casually, I wasn't super involved. But I got really, really involved in December. Um, I am a big supporter of Medicare for all. Um, and I am definitely a huge advocate of mental health since that affects me and my family a lot and a lot of people that I know. So in December, there was a program offered by the Bernie 2020 campaign for Bernie Victory Captains. And this program basically gave me the training to organize and host weekly events and canvass and make phone calls to talk to people about the issues that are affecting them. And that was a really powerful program for me. I met a lot of great progressive, like, not me, us people who aren't there to make a name for themselves. And I will say that me running is not for me to make a name for myself. Um, what I have seen in Osceola County is that there's a lot of needs. We have a lot of people who are working for wages that are less than living. When I was looking for a therapist here in Kissimmee, it was very difficult for me to find somebody I could work with full time. And I know that people are facing evictions. We're dealing with unemployment. People are waiting on payments. With the pandemic really just like hit it home because we need changes and we need them to be permanent. And we need them to be able, because we didn't just have problems when the pandemic hit and people lost their jobs. We've had these problems for a while now. Before the pandemic, you know, people were still getting eviction notices on their door. Mm-hmm. So I would say my real inspiration is that I see a need. I didn't see any other progressives that I know of standing up for these values, and I'm willing to try and talk to my neighbors and try and make a change here in Osceola County.
That is a very brave story about yourself that you shared, and I really appreciate that. So you just joined the campaign, the race, like about last month, I want to say. So how versus other candidates who have been joining this race, you know, a little bit right before the year started or in the beginning of the year. So how did you learn about this candidate process? What has been this campaign process? What are some things you would like to share? How has been campaigning for you ever since? Because I know you started during the pandemic, and that was a really big motivator for you. So how has the political campaign process been ever since you joined?
It's definitely a huge learning process. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I lost you guys for a second. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. That's why. Okay, so we're gonna try this. What was the question again? I'm so sorry.
I just want to learn about how was it joining, how is it campaigning and joining this process a little bit late? What have you been learned, or what are you doing to try to make sure that your name is on the ballot in August?
Yeah, especially with the pandemic going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Pandemic made it especially hard to collect signature petitions, which would have been my preferred way to qualify for the ballot, with safety and, you know, not wanting to put anybody in jeopardy. We didn't go door to door to do that. So right now we are collecting money for the qualifying fee. It is a percentage of the salary of the county commissioner. Everybody that I know is running, on a local level, I would say that mine is very high in comparison. So, you know, I'm making calls, I'm sharing on social media. Right now, the focus is just getting that qualifying fee to be on the ballot. And so if I'm not on the ballot, there's not much of a race, right? So I'm making those calls. Today is my birthday. So that is how I will be spending my birthday, is making phone calls and reaching out to my friends and family and fellow organizers and volunteers to try.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
We'll send you over some cookies.
Now, you're one of the youngest candidates that we've met. So what do you bring to the table as a young candidate when you're campaigning?
Sure. I think I have a different perspective on how kind of bad it is for young people right now. One of the things that I share with many people who are my age is being in student loan debt. It's obviously not true for everybody. Not everybody goes to college. And then there are people who go to college and they realize that they can't afford it, and then they're still in debt. My perspective comes from, not seeing the things that we were kind of taught growing up that would happen when we grew up. Getting a job, having health insurance, buying a house, buying a car, having families. These are not things that I, at least, can afford to do. And I know many others also can't afford to do these things.
I think many young people, in our age group, are not having the same experiences as people in our age group would have had in the past 40, 30 years. Amen. So for having graduating college, and then, the next step would be getting a job, getting a house. That's not happening for people our age, where we cannot pay our student loans, and it's really difficult to buy a house at this time, just because, one, in Central Florida, the housing prices are so large. Mm-hmm. And two, it's really hard to afford these college unless you have scholarships. I don't know if this is hitting
the American dream has gotten much, much more expensive, and it has outpriced inflation. So it's mm-hmm. ridiculously more difficult to do anything and this is the truth. And if you're born into it, you have a much more likely chance of succeeding than getting yourself out of poverty. It's a bigger burden than it used to be to try and overcome it. So you're preaching, we hear you.
Yes.
So one of the pillars for the Osceola Democrats, we're really just trying to, make policy, put out platforms. We're looking for our leaders to put out policy that goes with justice reform, environmental sustainability, affordable housing, and really just trying to power and just kind of civilize education among all groups, so K-12 and higher level schools. So what do you have to say about each of those platforms?
Sure. As far as justice reform, there's a huge need right now. We're seeing a lot of protests, not just around the state or the country, but around the world. So this is not even an American thing. It is a worldwide movement to end the system of institutionalized racism that is happening. One of the places that I worked in Philadelphia was Eastern State Penitentiary. It was formerly a prison, now turned into a museum. And one of the things that they have out in their courtyard is it's like a physical bar graph, and it shows the amount of people who are incarcerated around the world. And America is like beyond anything that we see in other countries. One of the things that I have seen Black leaders call for is demilitarization of the police, which I agree with. If we're supposed to have law enforcement that protect our community, the community should not be afraid of them. As far as environmental justice, I support a Green New Deal on a federal level. I think it would be cool to have some sort of local effort to that effect, cleaning up what we have destroyed, making sure that we have clean water, that we have an environment that can support the ecosystems that are already here. I know that when there used to be a field of cows not too far from my house, and they built a new neighborhood on that. And since then, you know, we have a lot more armadillos, a lot more raccoons, a lot more possums here in my neighborhood. That's not necessarily like a bad thing, but these animals are losing what was their home. So protecting that, making sure that we're getting input from the community about what they want. One of the things that our board had voted majority on was to approve a cut-through road in Split Oak Forest. And that's supposed to be people's land and also protected conservation land. I find that unacceptable. There's a lot of work we have to make sure that we're prepared because climate change is only getting worse. Hurricane season started super early last night. I was driving down the road last night when it was like raining really hard, and you can see the water coming up through the drains. Making sure that people who are displaced by natural disasters have a place to live. Housing as a human right, I think, is something that we need worldwide.
No, I wanted to get your opinions. You kind of talked about it earlier. A lot of the things you stand for are, you know, workers' rights, human rights. What are some of your thoughts about the some of the workers' movements that have taken place in Kissimmee? You know, these low-wage workers along 192 and the economic implications of Osceola continuing to be mostly tourism-based. What are your views on this?
I support the workers' movements. I think that collective workers' movements are what are going to change the conditions that they're working in. I have the Unite Here Local 737. They had done a caravan to protest for unemployment, for PPE, for protections when they have to go back to work. I think that there's clearly a very strong tourist industry here in Central Florida. I think it might be dangerous to rely on that industry that rakes in profits and doesn't share those profits with the workers who are putting in the labor to make them money. I definitely support unionizing efforts. It's definitely a different landscape in Florida than it is from other states. So I support any workers' movement for the betterment of workers, period. And I think that if they're the ones that are going to be on the front lines during a pandemic, if they're the ones who are affected by lost wages, if they're the ones that are losing their health insurance due to no fault of their own, then yeah, I support whatever they have to say. I will listen, and I will stand alongside them.
Awesome, awesome. Always good to hear. So what would you say is your number one pressing issue that you think you can really affect local change if you were elected?
I think that it is possible for us to pass a $15 minimum wage. And that's a minimum wage. People, that is not even there with inflation, especially with how much it costs for housing, for rent. People are spending the majority of the money that they make on housing. And that's just not how, if you're working just to have a roof over your head, you're not spending time with your family. You are not necessarily participating in your community. And I would say that this is probably true of a lot of Osceola. You're not paying attention to what your local government is doing because you're too busy working a job or two or three just to make sure that your kids are fed, that there's a roof over your head, that you can afford health insurance if you even have it. So I definitely think that's something that can be done. And I think that the people here in Osceola County could support that.
Definitely. Awesome. Dora, did you want to take up the next question?
Yes. So Megan, this is our last question. It's always a fun one. Where are your favorite places to spend time with in your district? And if there's anything else that you want to tell your voters, any last minute thing that you want to say, like where to donate, where they can find more information about you?
Sure. I would say I live in Broadmoor. It's a manufactured home neighborhood. It's the only village in Poinciana that is a manufactured home neighborhood. And I love it. I love walking around here. I mean, there's just so much foliage, there's trees. The palm tree, when I moved here before starting high school, I used to be able to touch the top, but now it's so much taller. So I've actually seen like this neighborhood grow. I'm also a big fan of the playground in Poinciana. That's where I would take one of the kids that I babysat, and I just think I think they've done a good job. Not that I'm hanging out in the playground, but I think it's great. I think the kids love it. I like that they, maintain it, and yeah. But I mean, there's so much to do here, and I love it.
Definitely, we're really lucky that way in Osceola County. There's definitely like really awesome pockets of stuff that people don't necessarily realize until they live here. So
yes, and I'm one of those people that like when the sun is setting and it's beautiful and the cows are there, like I'll pull over to the side of the road and take pictures.
And just to let the people know, Megan, how can they keep in touch with you? How can they support you?
Sure.
Self-promote.
Yes. I have a donor box link where I am raising the funds to qualify. And that qualifying fee is coming up. That's due the 12th. So I definitely need any kind of donations that anyone is willing, if you support me or even just support, democracy and want to help me get on the ballot and have a fighting chance. It's not letting me log in. But
how can our viewers look for your donor box link?
Yeah, is it on your Facebook page or?
I have my personal Facebook, and I do have a Facebook page, Megan Carter for Osceola County Commissioner. And I am working on making sure that is up to date and has the link. I'm also Megan Carter on Facebook. Let me see if I have, because I know that's a common name. I was gonna see if I have like a link to my Facebook.
Now, when is there is a deadline coming up though, correct? As far as the qualifying period, when does that end? So when do people need to make sure they check you out?
To donate and help me get on the ballot, that qualifying fee is due June 12th at noon. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Megan Jewel Carter. I don't know if on the YouTube they can see my name, but
Yes.
it's the very simple spelling, Megan, Jewel, Jewel, Carter, like Beyonce.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show, sharing us some tea. It was really fun to get to know you. Guys, we will be having another show at 12 noon. But thank you, Megan. I hope you have a wonderful, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Happy birthday.